Hello racers, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is part 6 of the Mini-B RTR series. In the previous video we said that part 6 would be the last, but we're going to have one more video after this. There are a few parts I have in the mail that I wanted to show, so we're going to have a holdover and have a grand finale with a part 7. So with that said, let's get into today's video. So in part 6, there are still quite a few changes I want to make to the car. And let me take a look. We'll start at the front and work the way to the back. So in the front, at the end of the last video, I noticed that the car was traction rolling. We got going fast enough that we started to traction roll. So what I wanted to do was try out a new set of front springs. When my traction roll, I think, was because the front was bottoming out. So what I did is I dug around my parts bin and I found a bunch of springs for my old RC18 series made by Team Associated. And I wanted to see if I could find a spring that was just a little bit stiffer than the stock RTR spring that comes with the little Mini-B. I'm just going to move this away. I got a little spring tester, and here is the stock Mini-B front spring. People that are familiar with the channel know that I do have this little spring tester. So the little Mini-B spring under compression is a 0.225 Newton centimeter spring. See the little. We'll just zero it, push it, 0.225. And then the little spring I found, Team Associated would have called this a soft spring. I'll just adjust it so it's in the holder nice, zero it, and squish it. This is a 0.44 spring. So this little spring here, what they call the soft, is 2 times stronger than the stock spring. So I'm going to try that out. They're basically the same height, so hopefully they fit in there nice. And just for completeness, I do have a rear Mini-B spring, in case somebody had a question as to what that was. Put that in the little holder, zero it. It is a 0.22 spring as well, so the spring rates on the Mini-B are the same front and back. So those are the springs. So I'm going to install the gold spring, or the silver springs from an old RC18, and you can see that I mounted them one hole in on the top, and I'm going to be all the way out on the arm on the bottom. And what I noticed, that'll make it progressive. You see how slow the stock spring is compared to the silver. That's what I wanted, something a little bit stiffer, because I found that this would just bottom out and roll. And with the top in, it'll be like a progressive style where it shouldn't traction roll on entry and it should roll over nice. Okay, so that is the first thing I'm going to do. Try a new set of springs on there. Second thing, you notice that I replaced the stock speed control here with a new speed control. Now, the whole goal of this build in this series is a low-cost Mini-B. And this little speed control is highly regarded and costs about $30 on Amazon. It is the ESC70. It's made by ISDT that makes chargers and such. I use their charger, good quality. And it's about $25 to $30 on Amazon. So very low cost. So I think it still meets the spirit of this series with a low cost option. The reason I went with it is because it's 70 amp and the little one, RTR one, is only 20 amp. So as I've been kind of working on stronger motors, I noticed that the motors were heating up and I wasn't sure about the speed control, so I just wanted to replace that. This little speed control has a ton of features. It has things like, here, let me get a little pointer. It has things like BEC voltage. You can adjust the BEC between 5 volt and 7 volt, which means more power to the servo. So you should get a high volt servo if you wanted. It has PWM frequency. So that's like the throttle frequency. It can go between 1,000 and 20,000 in the throttle frequency. The lower the number, the more punch out of corners it would have. So I set this to max, the lowest value. It also has like a punch setting. They call it starting force. And it even has drag brake. You can adjust the drag brake like you can in a brushless motor. So this thing for $25, I'll put a link in the description below in case you want to check that out for yourselves. So that is in the, I think that's in the spirit of this series. The next thing I'm doing, you can see the battery. I'm swapping out the 650 20C to a 1100 35C. Now that I'm moving into the 370 motors, I was worried that the little 650 wouldn't be enough power. So the 1100 seems to be working great. So we're going to go with that. The next thing is that we put the 370 motor in there, and we tested that in the last video. We found the 370, the Dynamite Taser 370 was about 18,000 RPM, and that was tested at 4 volt, and we found that if you do the math on that, that is about a 4,500 kV motor that's in the car. So still kind of less than a brushless motor that's being used that I race against. So in this video we are going to be installing the LaTrax 7575X. Now this motor is a 28 turn 370 motor. LaTrax sells two versions of this motor, a 7575X and a 7575R. And we'll just see the 7575R in the next video, but I wanted to test this one. This is a 28 turn motor. You see I got my little test harness on there. So let's give it a run. We'll see if this little motor can beat the 18,000 RPM of the Dynamite 370. So I gotta attach it to my power supply, turn it on. So that is it spinning at 3 volt. One thing I noticed that the amps are, you can see them in green there, 1 amp. Let's bump that up to 4 volt, and you can hear it really purring. Let's just do a little test for the RPM. See if you can see this. You see this is spinning at approximately 22,000 RPM. So 22,000 at 4 volt is about 5,500 kV. So this little motor is well within range of the brushless motor systems. The Hobby Wing is 5,200. The brushless all-in-one is 6,000. So this little motor should be within the range of the brushless motors that we're racing. And this guy's $10. So we'll give it a test this week and see how we do. And then finally, what I'm going to install is a little fan. Not a big item, but I'm going to put it in, I think back here in this corner, blowing in on the motor. Let's see if I can get that in there. Because in the last video, the 370, although it was keeping up, it was getting a little hot. Around 160 to 180 degrees. So I'm going to put a little fan in there. I'll install that. And I have one more spot on the receiver to plug that into. So with that said, let me get to soldering in and working on the little car and prepping it for the race. And then what we'll do is after this, we'll do a kind of a race review, and then we'll check out the video on the race. All right, so with that said, I'm going to go do some installs, and I'll see you in a minute. Back from another day of racing. Results were good, but a little bit mixed. What I'll do is just kind of walk you through the changes that we made and tell you how they performed on the track. And following this little section, you can watch the race and you can see how the car reacted. So starting on the front, we replaced the front springs. The RTR springs we found were 0.22 Newton millimeters, and these were replaced with some 18R springs that are 0.44. That did and move the top of the shocks in. Now what that did was remove any hint of traction roll. So this car was very stable that way, but it introduced a new problem where the car just didn't have the front grip and would push on corner entry and exit. The springs were a little bit longer than stock, so I was having a hard time getting the front low. It's right at the top of the shock, and I would only get 13 millimeters at full shock collar. So what I was doing was raising the rear and trying to tune the rear of the car to try to get some more steering. So what I did is I moved the shock bottom out all the way on the arm, moved the shock top all the way out on the tower, and you can see that I tightened the springs quite a bit. So this thing was leaning forward 13 millimeters of ride height in the front, about 17 in the back. So it was like an old Plymouth Duster on a drag strip in the 70s type of stance where the front end was very low compared to the back. That did help. You can see it running in the final. But what you can't really tell in the final is that I was a little bit later getting on power because it would push on power, and coming into the corners you can see it push on corner entry, especially on the left side of the track, or the right side of the track underneath the timing counter. You can see that many times there the car pushes wide, and I was unable to really hold it inside line. So I do have some Mini-B springs coming, and I'll test those to see if they're a 0.3. I think a 0.3 would be perfect in the front. Next up, I did replace the speed control with the ISDT ESC70. I think this speed control was doing some funny stuff. I think it was applying some like active drag brake or something. It wasn't really coasting around like I usually like to do. I work the throttle quite a bit, and what I found with this speed control is that as soon as you would apply, say, a 3/4 throttle coming down from full throttle, that the ESC motor combination here would almost put like the brake on and reduce your speed quickly, but it would do it inconsistently. So I found it very hard to drive that way. Now it could have been just me, but I still need to get used to that speed control. Speed control has Bluetooth. I was able to change some settings. I removed anything of drag brake, active braking, all those kind of things. It did get better, maybe as I got used to it, but still the jury's out on the speed control. For a $25 value, it's probably a great replacement, but I did find it made my driving more point and shoot, where I was off throttle and on throttle. I found the easiest way to run the speed control was, rather than going like from full throttle to like half throttle to coast, I just took the throttle completely off and let the car coast around. That was more consistent. So speed control, still need to do some tuning with. The LaTrax 7575X motor, that worked great. If you watch it in the video, this motor here can keep up with a brushless system. We did the calculation. This is about a 5400 kV motor, equivalent to a 5400 kV motor. I put a 14 tooth pinion on. I is a little bit under geared maybe. I could have added another tooth to the pinion, but I was handling that push on power and inconsistent braking and stuff. So I didn't really want to go faster. So I left it at a 14 tooth pinion, but I think it could go faster. It was a little bit slow on the straight, and you can see the result of that in the video where there was a collision on the straight where a car came up behind it and got into the back of my car. I couldn't get away from them quick enough. And the last change we made, which is added a little fan. Now this little fan actually worked great. It was a little ESC fan I put there. Just servo taped it to the, put a little piece of Lexan, servo taped that to the chassis, servo taped the little fan to the piece of Lexan. And this motor was around 110 to 130 degrees C. So it was actually quite good. Quite good. I feel confident I could have geared that up more, but I just didn't want the power and speed because I was already kind of battling with some handling. So next up, we'll watch the video, and in the next video that we do in the Mini-B RTR series will be the last. We've got a few more little goodies to show you, and then we'll call this series an end. So if you have any questions or comments, put those in the comments below. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see in that last video, put them in the comments. And like if you like this type of thing, and subscribe if you want to see some more. So with that, let's check out how this performed on the track. You'll see that it's much faster. If you can get through the first 3-4 laps of my poor driving, I think that the car settles down nicely. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.
You guys ready? All right, here we go.
Anyway, all of that was 147.95.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. First, second. Third, first, second, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Slowing down not to tag anyone.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. First, third, fourth, fifth, second, sixth. First, third, fourth, fifth, second. After 1 minute 30 seconds, the top drivers are proud in first place, followed by Mark in second place, followed by Bodo in third place, followed by Bert in fourth place, followed by Bert in fifth place. Sixth, first, third, fourth, fifth, second, first, sixth, third, fourth, fifth, second, first, third, sixth, fourth, fifth, second, first, third, sixth, fourth, second, first, fifth, third, sixth, fourth, second, first, third, fifth, second, first, fourth, third, sixth, fifth, second, first, fourth, third, sixth, fourth, third, second, first, fifth. After 3 minutes, the top drivers are proud in first place, followed by Mark in second place, followed by Bodo in third place, followed by Bird in fourth place, followed by Beard in fifth place, sixth, fourth, third, second, first, fifth, sixth, fourth, second, third, first, fifth, second, third, first, fourth, fifth, second, third, first, sixth, fourth, second, first, third, fifth, sixth, fourth, second, first, third, second, fifth, sixth. 2 minutes left. First, fourth, third, second, fifth, sixth, first, fourth, third, second, fifth, sixth, first, fourth, second, third, fifth, first. After 4 minutes 30 seconds, the top drivers are Sal in first place, followed by Mark in second place, followed by Bodo in third place, followed by Beard in fourth place, followed by Bird in fifth place, sixth, second, third, fourth, fifth, first, second, sixth, third, fourth, first, fifth, second, first, third, fourth left, sixth, fifth, second, first, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, second, first, third, fourth, fifth, second, sixth, first, third, fourth, fifth, second, first, third, fourth, fifth, second, sixth, first, third, 10, 9, 8, 4, 7, second, 6, 5, 5, 4, 3, first, 2, water. Second mark done in the 37 lap 601.6 result. Fourth break done in the 32 lap 602.2 result. Fifth bear done in the 32 lap 604.5 result. Third Bordeaux done in the 35 lap 608.3 result. Sixth Nico done in the 28 lap 608.5 result. First Kyle done in the 38 lap 609.3 result. All drivers are finished. The race is completed.